Hello everybody, Clare Sieber here. This is a demo video for all of the current customers of the WLP Practice platform to introduce you to our new piece of software. And I will do this through way of a screen share. So you will have all received an email inviting you to register and log into the platform. Do let me know if you haven't done so. It is easier now to remember where the platform is because it's simply accessible from our website. If you go to wellledprovider.com, you'll now see at the top right-hand side of every bit of our web page, we've got a login button there. And if you click on it, it will open a new tab prompting you to log into the software. And you can log in just like this. Here we are in my dashboard. The first part of the platform that I'm going to show you, because it's the most important part, is our resource library. And this is a reversion of the expert guidance, as it used to be called on our old platform. This is where all of our resources, our exercises, our reading materials to help you develop your own leadership, your team, your individuals, and make sure your CQC WLP compliant are. It's been rearranged and refreshed and rebuilt and reworded, and it's all now based around the quality statements in the well-led key questions. So it's much easier if you have a particular area of CQC that you know you need to work on, that you know where to find the resources. Or indeed, if you find that you're doing a resource because you've been prompted to do that and look at it through way of doing a practice or individual report, you can be clear when you're doing an action which part of the CQC framework you're demonstrating the evidence for, because it's sometimes not completely clear. So this is what our library looks like, and all of our users will be able to access this. We now have all of our webinars that we ran last year here in the library for you to look at. And if you weren't able to attend or watch any of our webinars, they're a really good place to start if you're not sure where to start with that particular CQC quality statement. We have done one for each one. Let me show you this one, for example, that we did on learning, improvement and innovation. These were led by Gabby on our team, who is a former CQC inspector. And what she did was she broke down everything that sits under the learning, improvement and innovation quality statement in this example, and picked apart some reports from practices to show you as much as we can what you need to do in order to be getting good and what you shouldn't be doing to make sure that you don't get requires improvement or inadequate. So that recording is there for you to watch with some timestamps if you don't have time to watch it all. And there's also a link to download the slides if all you want to do is have a good look at the slides. So do have a look at all of those if you're not sure where to start, and they're a really good resource. But then what we have in each chapter of our CQC library now, let me click on inclusion as an example, is we have an overview of why you need to be doing it, not just for CQC, but in terms of being a well-led organisation with good leadership and team members that are feeling valued and want to stay working in the organisation. And then we have a section with some exercises that you can go away and do either as a group or an individual. So here we've got 5 exercises under this topic of inclusion. We've got an exercise about speaking constructively, which is either a team or an individual exercise of about 45 minutes. We've got an exercise here on active listening, again for a team or individual, but that takes a little bit longer. We have a 5-minute TED talk to watch, but then some brief activities to do either as a group or individual. And then here are some longer activities to do based on that video if you really enjoyed watching the video. And then finally, we have an exercise here, a group one about mapping a conversation to look at the levels of inclusivity and what people are saying and whether there's interruptions and that sort of thing. And that one's a bit longer. That one's an hour exercise. So that's an example of what you find in our resource library under each of the quality statement chapters. And I hope you find it useful and much improved on the previous one. I'll now go back to our dashboard, which is where you land when you first log in and register on the platform. So you will be able to see the name of your organization, how many reviews there are in the organization, individual ones and practice level ones or PCN level ones, and how many users are registered on the platform at your organization. You'll also be able to see how long's left on your subscription, but don't worry too much about that. We'll always be in touch with you as it's coming to an end to see whether you want to review. But it will give you an idea of whether you've got time to do another review, I guess. If you've only got 2 days left on your subscription, you might be a bit tight in doing a review. You'll also be able to see what the status of your reviews are, so how many of them are still in progress and how many of them are done and completed. And there's a little list of them down here as well. You'll also have the ability to go straight to create a review, because that's the thing that people do on our platform most of all. And if you're lucky enough to work in more than one organization, for example, you're a practice manager, but also a PCM manager, here where I'm waving my cursor at the moment, you'll have a drop-down box where you can toggle between your 2 organizations. So you can always make sure you're in the right one. I'll take you to the users section and just talk to you about this briefly. There are 2 types of users from your point of view. There are manager users and there are standard users. Most of you watching this video will probably be manager users. And what managers can do is that they can invite new users into their organization. You can invite extra managers or you can invite just normal users. But you can also create all of the reviews that you expect to be able to create. So you can also manage your subscription as well. So you can create practice or PCN level reviews. You can create individual reviews for everybody that you line manage. A standard user will only be able to create an individual review themselves. They won't be able to create organization level reviews. The other thing that a standard user will be able to do is they'll be able to see how they've filled in the feedback for any reviews that they've been asked to give feedback for. So if you've done a practice review recently, that user will be able to remind themselves of what smiley faces they clicked on. They won't be able to see the report, but they'll be able to remind themselves of how they rated it at the time. Standard users will be also, of course, able to look at our resource library. So do invite as many users as you want from your surgery, so everybody at least can be looking at the library and doing their own individual review if you're happy for them to do one themselves rather than created by you. There's no limit to how many users each organization can have. It's an unlimited number, and it's meant to be for everybody in the organization to use and get some good use out of. So to invite a user, if you are a manager, then you just need to put in their name, their first name, their last name, their email address, which is normally their NHS one, and create them a password. And normally you just create them the same password that's their email or whatever you want. It will get changed when that individual first logs in. You can also put their job title, and you'll see here it's automatically populated the organization with the ID that's associated with it. Because I'm associated with 2 organizations as a user, it's put them both in, but for almost all of you, it will just have one in there anyway, and you leave it well alone. And then you're invited to say whether this person is a standard user or a manager. You won't be able to add any super admins, don't worry about that. So if your manager is somebody who you think you might want to be creating team level or organization reviews or individual reviews for lots of people, then that's the best option for them to be a manager. And then you click send invite and they will be emailed an invite, much like the one that you were when you were first invited to join the platform. So over to the reviews section now. The first thing I'll draw your attention to is the new place where we put all of our templates and guides. You may remember that we have action plans, individual or practice level ones for you to populate once you've done a review, so you can demonstrate what learning you're going to do as a result of what actions you might be taking forward. So those are there for you to use. There's also a guide to anybody who's creating or is the subject of an individual 360, and these are worth sharing with everybody in your practice that's going to be doing one. It busts a lot of myths, gives people some reassurance about what to expect, talks them through the process, and has a case study in it as well. And this is what it looks like if you were to download it. You can also find it whenever you open a report for somebody who's done an individual 360, but the guide is also sitting there for you too. Onto the reviews section now. This is where you'll be able to see every review that has been created in your organization, and you'll have the ability to create a new one. And I'll show you that process first of all. So you click create a review. You're prompted to give your review a name, which might be the name of your organization and perhaps the date, so you can help sift through them later on when you've got many to look at. You're prompted to set a deadline for when you won't be accepting any more responses from people, and that's a hard deadline, after which point the software won't allow any more to be submitted. So some people tend to go a bit further in the deadline than they might be actually giving to their staff. For example, if they say they want it done within 2 weeks, they might put 3 or 4 as the actual hard deadline here, just in case there are any stragglers that want to submit something a bit late, they still can. You're also prompted to say how often you would like the software to remind people to fill in their feedback if they haven't already filled it in, and that's in a number of days. So let's say in that box we'll put 7 days. And then you can choose what kind of review you want to create, a practice or team one or an individual one in this example, because I'm in a practice organization. Or if you're in a PCN organization, then you'll be prompted to do PCN reviews instead. So you click on the type you want, and then you're prompted to put in the email addresses of everybody that you want to seek the feedback from. So this is a difference to our old platform where we were giving you a link and you had to then manually send it to everyone. This way, we will send it to everybody and we will remind people automatically for you. And you don't need to type email addresses in here manually, although you can copy and paste from an Outlook group or from a whole column of a spreadsheet. If you've got a spreadsheet of everybody's email addresses, whatever works for you. But that's how you put in all of their email addresses. And then you simply click create and the review will be created and will automatically be sent to all of those people. And you will then be able to see it in your list of reviews. But that's not all that can then happen at that point. It's often the case that you have additional people that you think you might want to send it to, or you might have forgotten to send it to yourself. Normally, that's the most common thing, is you haven't put your own email address in there. So what you can then do for every review that you've created that's still open is send it to additional people, and then they will also get emailed and also get the reminders too. You can also view your review to remind yourself what you called it, what date you set for it to close, how often people are going to be reminded. There's a manual reminder button if you want to immediately send everybody a reminder. For example, there's a protected learning time and you think, oh, now would be a great time for everybody to get that email again. You can send it there and then. And you can also use this function to send to more people. If you're interested in seeing what the review looked like, then you can see that in there and you can complete the review yourself here by clicking on the complete review button. And with a review that's had 3 or more responses, you'll also be able to see the report from here within the review section, but it's also available here in our report section. The other thing that you could do that you couldn't do on the old platform is delete a review. Even once responses have come in and you've got a full report, some people still wanted the ability to be able to delete those reports. So you can now delete a thing in its entirety from this dashboard here. And I'll show you what a report looks like from the report section. So let me go to Clare Sieber's practice and we'll look at this one. So I can see the number of responses that I've had coming in, and this will keep changing as more responses come in unless you've reached the closing date, and then that will be a cut-off. It tells you the date that you've looked at the report in case you're downloading it, and then you go in and look at another one later, you know what date the download was done on. You get an overall score like you did with the old platform. You're reminded of how you might want to use this report in terms of your either individual development journey, or in this case, because it's a practice review, in your CQC well-led journey. And there's a reminder of our action plans. And then you get our data to look at. It's laid out as it used to be in the platform, with the 3 columns where you can compare how the leadership team rate themselves and how the wider practice or PCN team rate the leadership, with a column in the middle, which is our database. So you compare yourselves with organizations that are similar. So in this case, with a practice review, you're comparing yourselves with other practices that have done one of these. You'll notice with the new platform that there are some additional questions and some differently worded questions that we think now better fully capture all of the well-led questions now that there's this new CQC framework, and that they're also laid out as per the CQC key questions. So it's a little bit easier to follow when you're thinking about a CQC point of view. There's all of your scores with the usual red circles for anything that's scored particularly low in the top 10% of our bottom 10% of our database, or particularly high in the top 10% of the database. You also see what everybody's thought, what everybody thought you could improve on, all of the free text comments. And if you've had people voting on areas that they think should be improved on, then you will also see how everybody voted on the priorities. And that's why I'm bringing this one up to show you. This is what the report looks like if people have voted on priority areas. You'll be able to click through to our library on any of these resources that you think are particularly interesting to you. In this particular example, there were 5 people who all thought that this individual needed to be working better on delegation. So you can click through and then see a nice overview about delegation, and 2 exercises there, one to help you become a better delegator, and one if your boss is a micromanager and you need some help in managing your micromanager. And that's a really good podcast by Radical Candor that I thought people would like to listen to. So that's what you get with the report. And you can download it in a PDF format so you can keep it if it's the case of an individual within their staff file, or if it's a practice review or a PCN review and you're thinking more with CQC in mind, you can then upload it to where you're keeping all of your CQC documents so they're all in one place. The extra functionality that will be arriving soon is that you'll also be able to compare reviews and compare the scores from 2 reviews. So if you have a practice review that you do now and then another one that you do in 6 months' time, you can bring up the scores next to each other and clearly show what improvement has been made. Again, a great way to demonstrate to the CQC that you're making progress and that changes excuse me, that you make are becoming embedded. The subscription manager isn't something that current customers will need to do much about because you have active subscriptions. That's why you're all watching this video. But some people, when they register for the first time, if they don't have a subscription, they'll be able to do a brief trial and see a selection of resources from the library, and then they can upgrade to a full package using that service. We also, though, have on here a reminder of all of the additional services that we provide in addition to this software: our workshops, our coaching and mentoring, our mock inspections with the CQC, and you can pay and order these directly through the app. My only final comment would be that for those of you that have been creating reviews still this month, and I have been in touch with you individually, that you need to remember to log in and get those downloaded from the old platform by the end of this month, before that sort of disappears off. I'm afraid we weren't able to bring across old reviews from the previous platform into the new one, but I know that most of you keep your copies anyway. But just for any ones that were done recently, just remember to go in and make sure that you've taken those away. I hope that demo was useful. Of course, you can reach out to Gary and I, and we can do this personally with you, and you can share your screens with us, and we can give you a tour that way as well. And that's, of course, at no additional cost. So please do reach out to me and Gary if you would like that. But I hope you found this demo useful, and thank you very much for watching it.